Welcome to 1% of my book collection. I'm just kidding, this is more than 1%, but it is the part that is dedicated to filmmaking and acting, as well as a few other things that we'll cover in this video. Now, there's a lot of books on acting and filmmaking, directing, and script writing, and this is not going to cover all of them, of course. This is only going to cover the part that I have read myself. So if there's a book that you know of which is not on this list, it is most likely because I haven't read it yet. With that said, the first book is actually one I don't have here because someone else is borrowing it. It's called Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. Lumet. It's a very good book for directors and filmmakers in general because it takes you through the whole process of what it takes to make a movie. He really goes in depth with everything from music to takes to post-production, and if there's just one book you want to read from here, I recommend that one. My second recommendation for filmmaking is Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew. Another name for this book is How a 23-year-old filmmaker with $7,000 became a Hollywood player. This book, set up like a journal, takes you through how Robert made his first feature film for only $7,000. It covers everything from pre-production to the filming process and then the post-production as well as distribution. Again, it's a very inspiring book and one of those I recommend the most from this collection. Continuing the journey of filmmaking, I recommend this one called Making It Big in Shorts by Kim Adelman. It's a very simple book and I recommend it mostly to beginner filmmakers. It's a very short book. It can be read in one day if you wish, and it's just filled with small advice on how to make your first short film. It's a very nice read and I can imagine myself reading this more than once. To continue on this style, I have a book for actors called You Can Act on Camera by D.W. Brown, and it does exactly the same. It has small sections filled with advice for the actor, and it's also a book I can imagine myself reading more than once. Speaking of actors, here's another recommendation, Impro by Keith Johnstone. And you don't have to like improvising as an actor, but this book is really useful anyways. It gives some different techniques and different recommendations on improvising, and it's not only for the actor. I'd recommend this to a director as well so that they can understand the process of an actor when it comes to improvising. Of all the books we have here, I think I personally learned the most from this one, but again, that is just personal experience, might not be the same for you. Continuing on the journey for actors, this is not a direct recommendation on a book, but instead if you already have a style of acting that you like, for instance method acting or Michael Chekhov, you can look up books that are specific to this genre. We'll not talk too much about that, we'll put that aside, but instead here's a good one, Auditions by Michael Shurtleff. This is a very good book as well for all kinds of actors, not just a specific type of actor. And it covers advice as well, not just auditions. And it's also not an expensive book. I bought this one used on eBay, which is something I really recommend, to go and see if your book is something you can find secondhand on a place like eBay. Now, covering all parts of filmmaking, there is this stack of books right here, which is also again not a direct recommendation on one book, but instead the recommendation on biographies. For instance, this is a lot of actors' biographies as well as one director, Akira Kurosawa. This is a very good book as well, especially if you want a bit of a background story on a director. This is Akira Kurosawa's something like an autobiography. So what I recommend is that you find your favorite actor or director and see if there is a biography out there. For instance, De Niro, a biography, was not written by De Niro, it's by John Baxter in this case. And then there's a book like this one, Leslie Nielsen, if you remember that actor. He was such a funny guy. And the book itself is also a very funny book. This is actually what I'm reading right now. And I got this one secondhand because the cover is actually gone. Yeah, it's not that pretty, but again, don't judge a book by its cover. Otherwise, there's a few other books by famous actors like Jack Nicholson, Humphrey Bogart, and Jackie Chan, which is one of my favorites, as well as Michael Caine, which is the next on my list to read. Look at that. Look at that. Michael, what have you been doing? How many pages are in this book? There's like 500, almost 500 pages. Holy damn. Michael, you've been living a busy life. Now, a good book for screenwriting, if you're a beginner, is Save the Cat. Another book I don't have here because someone is taking a very, very long time to give it back. Not everybody likes this, some have other preferences, but it's the one that I've read, and I really do see how movies are using storytelling very similar to how it's described in this book. It's a very nice book for beginners when it comes to screenwriting on how to write your screenplay, but remember it's a lot about how to write your feature film screenplay, and other rules may apply when you're writing a short film. Sticking with writing scripts, this one is for those as well as directors and actors. This is simply, again, a recommendation on the type of book instead of the books themselves. It is actually reading screenplays. I feel like it kind of makes sense within itself that you should read scripts, but even I don't do it that often and I should do it more. Covering another big subject, just like the book here, is for all types of filmmakers, whether you're an actor, screenwriter, filmmaker, or director. It's simply reading novels. Why? Well, we're storytellers. These are stories. They are inspiring, and sometimes we just forget that this is what we actually want to do. So let's see how other people set up their stories and get inspired from that. One of my favorite books in the world is The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is just a collection of all the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books in one. And it's such a funny book. You can read it again and again, and it's still going to be funny because you notice something new every goddamn time. Douglas Adams, you were a genius. One last book for every creative out there. Again, doesn't matter which aspect of film you're doing or if you're not even doing film. This is a book for those who feel a bit stuck when it comes to creativity. It's the famous The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Reading through this book, you get a few assignments to really awaken your creativity again if you feel like it's been gone forever. It also has a few good advice on how to continue keeping your creativity, if you want to say it like that. Having some exercises that you can use for the rest of your life if you'd like. And with that, I think we are done. There was a lot of books here. Maybe I should have stuck to 3 or 4, but I really wanted to share everything in one video so you can go back and forth and see what you prefer. Now, maybe you've decided that you're not the big reader after all, so maybe you want podcasts instead. Well, leave a comment below and I'll make a video in the future on podcast recommendations for filmmakers. Bye! I want to show you something else. I actually lied before. This is actually my favorite book. It's called Zorba the Greek. It looks like this. It's a very small book. But when you open it up,